Well, thanks. It's really nice being here. It's been an incredibly stimulating meeting so far. I'm looking forward to the discussion after this, and I've learned a lot. So I've been editor-in-chief of Aperture Neuro for about, I guess, a year and a half or so, in its second iteration, and it's a new journal, and I'll just go through some of the history. So it actually has history even before 2016. OHBM, the Organization for Human Brain Mapping, wanted to start something, either publish tutorials or whatever. And the conversation got going, and I finally got approached by JP Pauline, I believe at the OHBM meeting in Singapore, and to start seeing if I was interested in trying to help out. And I was. And so things grew from there. We actually started initially with the idea of trying to have purely open source platform software for our journal, and that interaction actually didn't work out very well. It turns out that at least the person that we were working with, the company that we were working with, didn't quite have things together as much as we wanted to, and the prices were high to get it together. So, and that sort of fell apart, honestly. It was part the software, it's part just the infrastructure. So then we regrouped and we decided, okay, we're just going to be conservative right now. We employed Scholastica, and it's a publishing platform that publishes all kinds of things like law journals and things like that. We thought this was the best match, at least to get things off the ground. And so our aims and mission, we pretty much, our goal is to advance our understanding of the brain. We're an OHBM journal, and so we're sort of affiliated with OHBM. We really want to catalyze the dissemination and use of novel methods and tools. And so while this is how we differentiate ourselves perhaps from imaging neuroscience and the other big journals, and also we're a society journal. So we'd like to sort of maybe allow OHBM, if they have software tools or whatnot, to at least publish. So we still are at the stage of just publishing PDFs. But I think one thing that's really nice about this journal as it's starting is that, now we're stable now, but we're completely open to talk to other platforms. And Kola, just want to keep the conversation with NeuroLibre as well, for better incorporating things like code, things like data sets. So certainly right now, all we have are, we have data papers or code papers that we link out to GitHub or to, other platforms for data. So, and that works pretty well so far, but it can be better. So our values are, we want to keep our APCs extremely low. We're a nonprofit. So we pretty much set it at $1,000, and really that's to cover the cost of two main things. One is the publishing platform, which is about $5,000 to $7,000 a year, which is relatively cheap, and half time of a journal manager. So we, like a traditional journal, we actually, there is some extra busy work, a lot of work of, plugging reviewers, chasing down authors, things like that. That requires, at least so far, a half-time journal manager. We're always staying open access, and also those costs are modified for developing countries and so on. So we waive them pretty frequently. And we're encouraging non-traditional research objects. And we're still at the stage of trying to work out the logistics of how do you properly find the appropriate, like for instance, code reviewers. What does reviewing code mean? How deep do you go just to make sure it works, or something deeper? With data sets or formats, things like that. We have a plan. We're working it out, and we're growing. And it's also community driven. So we very much would like to tap into the brain hack community, for instance, at OHBM, to maybe develop tools for Aperture Neuro. So the scope of submissions, everything from your traditional original research to review articles, tutorials, conferences and workshop summaries, registered reports, editorials, replication studies, And also of course, we encourage even negative findings and code data in notebooks as well. So, all right. And our editorial team, we're trying to cover all the topics that are typically covered at OHBM. There are probably a couple of gaps here and there. We have, everyone from physicists to clinicians, to neuroscientists, to data scientists on our editorial board. And it's a traditional board. They basically, I'm trying to model this a little bit like a miniature version of what I did at NeuroImage, sort of having right now we have only one tier of like just handling editors. If it gets bigger, we might have senior editors, handling editors. That seems like it worked out well. But right now I get all the papers and I just pass them off to handling editors as depending on their expertise. And Millar Chakravarti is pretty much the kind of my co-editor-in-chief who will eventually take over when I step down when things are stable. So as I mentioned, we launched. And this is actually sort of a little bit redundant, technology and infrastructure. We use Scholastica, which is we reviewed about 5 different platforms, and we at the time it really was sort of a matter of what just works, and we didn't really care necessarily about how adaptable it was or whatever. So we can, in our contract with Scholastica, is like on an annual basis, so we can actually change that on a moment's notice, depending on how we evolve. We use, identical plagiarism detection software, and we got a new brand logo and so on. So, and also as far as peer review and publishing, we restructured our editorial team. Before it was way too big, and part of the problem there is that I believe that the editors have to be somewhat engaged on a regular basis to do a good job. If it's too big and you just give it to an editor who gets a paper once a year, it usually is incredibly inefficient, and there's sort of a drift in standards between editors. As far as all the ethics and everything like that, that's pretty much standard. We've applied for indexing, and that's sort of ongoing. We have to have at least some number of papers per year to actually be appropriately indexed. We're partners with the Bid Steering Committee and NeuroLibre as far as producing, enhancing reproducibility. Okay. And we'd like to keep on engaging with the OHBM community. We advertise, and we have Best Papers Awards and so on. And actually, we're trying to publish the abstract book. We actually did. It was more expensive than we thought initially. And part of this, and I think actually there's a theme here. Whenever we try to do something, novel, like for instance, we thought, okay, let's publish the abstracts. And the abstract handling company that works with OHBM sort of balked at that. And we had to do a ton of work to sort of translate the abstracts to PDFs. And so there's always a lot of work in terms of the startup, but I believe it's worth it. And like anything here, so for instance, even incorporating more novel ways of incorporating code and data takes a little bit of work to work through the system. And so we're exactly at that stage. Okay. And we did have a special initiative on code. One of the main editors with Aperture Neuro is Renzo Huber. And not only is he my right-hand man at my lab sort of driving our layer fMRI work, he's also incredibly creative and innovative. And he's always pushing the envelope in terms of what to do. And I figured I'd have him help out with Aperture Neuro. And he's been sort of pushing special issues. And we had a special issue on code. Basically code descriptors and for the most part, and it seems like it's been going pretty well. We have we had several submissions, and these are the papers, and we've had editorials, and we welcome all kinds of editorials as well. I mean, there's one of a memoriam for Sean Merritt, who passed away almost a year ago, and then of course. Also sort of it's almost it's sort of a peer-reviewed blog post, I guess. You can actually, there's a lot of really outstanding blogs that are out there that probably would be, more widely read if they were published. And so we're open for that. So, and of course, original research, and here we're very much resemble imaging neuroscience, human brain mapping, and whatnot, as far as that's concerned. And we do try to keep even though we very much want to publish papers, I think all the editors, I try to set the standard of keeping the standards high, and that's what we're doing. And we're trying to actually start a website, a part of our website that's a conference and workshop summary. So as opposed to just publishing the abstract book, we would like to have another option for publishing conferences and workshops. It could either be videos, or it could be the talks, or just simply the PDFs, or some aspect of the discussion. Like I said, we had our abstract book for OHBM. The entire meeting is contained in, I think, 6 abstract books. So just quick numbers. Since July, our numbers have been pretty good. We've been trying to, keep a rapid turnaround. We're engaging much of the community that also reviews for imaging neuroscience and human brain mapping and other journals like that. And so, our metrics are good. And this is our submission rate over time. And you can see that it's pretty consistent. It's not quite as high as we'd like it to be, but it's getting there. And I think that with our $1,000 APC and our expenses, I think we need about something like, I think we calculated like only 20 to 40 papers a year to break even. So right now we're being sort of supported a little bit by OHBM to sort of get off the ground as far as that's concerned. So once again, our peer review timeline is about what other journals would be. It's pretty good. Total publications by volume in terms of over the years. We're trying to increase our code publications. We're trying to increase our conference summaries and things like that. But right now, it's mostly original research. And we'd love to have more review articles as well. I think that they serve a purpose. And our downloads for article views has been good. It's also growing. And so looking ahead, so we have another special issue on open data sets, where we're basically encouraging people to write papers about their open data sets, how they've been used, what it involves to use them. Like I said, we want a whole platform to summarize conferences and conference proceedings. And looking ahead, I think that we're engaged with OHBM, but we're sort of an independent entity, and we'd really like to. I think this is a meeting where, from the previous talks, I've got all kinds of ideas, but I think that this is a meeting where we could actually sort of work on further advancing Aperture to promote reproducibility, promote sharing, promote all the research that's done that sort of falls between the cracks with traditional journals. And I think I see it as a very complementary role with a lot of the work that's being done here. So so I think that definitely welcome everyone's feedback, maybe in the discussion or the coffee. And I think actually when I was asked to give this talk, and this is just the final slide, I thought about, okay, so what are other possible ideas? And this could be something for also a special issue, but I think it could be a science in itself. Because when I started thinking about the sources of variability, so this is separate from Aperture right now, but of all of our findings, and certainly this has been studied to some degree, of course, in processing steps. Tom Nichols, for instance, has sort of created this multiverse of processing steps. There have been wonderful papers that have talked about how 60 different groups analyze the same data set with different results. or slightly, similarities and different. But I think that there's many sources of variability. Uh, Everything from how you choose your subjects, the paradigms, the acquisition methods, the pre-processing pipelines, and the processing steps. And each of these alters the results in different ways. And sometimes they alter the results in ways that don't really affect the final results. And sometimes they have more of an effect. And so you can imagine the entire pipeline being, this path where there's these breakpoints that are more fragile. And this is where, reproducibility doesn't happen if there's variability at these fragile points of this pipeline. And I don't even think there's ever been, a really, outstanding paper that reviews this point. At least I haven't seen it. And I think it would be worth actually either a special issue or further discussion, at least today, on how you can actually, the science of variability in our results can be addressed. And I think that could get a handle on minimizing it. And of course, people like Russ Polsrock and others have been working hard on this. But I think it's not just having open data sets that you can test out their experiment or their data, or shared software so you can try it on your own data. I think it's actually understanding where the entire experiment is a little bit more delicate, where it produces different results. And I think that there's a science to that. So I think something like that could be developed either, like I said, through a special issue or a conference or even a review article. So with that, I'd just like to thank you. This is, I believe these QR codes work for going to the Aperture website. And I welcome, maybe in the afternoon, any discussion and ideas. Thanks.